A seller calls you about a house. She says it's worth $255,000 once it's fixed up. She's asking $175,000, and she tells you it just needs cosmetic work. Paint, flooring, maybe new counters. Most people hear that and they think, that's a deal. 80 grand a room that barely needs work? Wrong question, wrong order. Before you run a single number, you need to know whether this lead is even worth your time, because most of them aren't. The investors who waste the least time are the ones who can kill a bad deal in 5 minutes or less before they've driven out to see it, called a contractor, or gotten attached to a deal that was never real. That's this episode. Not how to analyze a deal, that's coming. This is how to know if the deal is even worth analyzing. Right now, here's everything you have. She's asking $175,000. She thinks it's worth $255,000 fixed up, and she says it only needs cosmetic work. 3 numbers in one claim, all from the seller, all unverified. And that doesn't mean she's lying. Most sellers aren't, but most sellers also aren't appraisers or contractors. And she believes what she's telling you. It doesn't make it accurate. Here's the part beginners skip. You don't know where $255,000 came from. A Zillow estimate? Something an agent said 5 years ago? A neighbor's sales price? Each one of those is a different level of reliable, and you don't yet know which one you've got. You don't know what cosmetic means to her. To someone who's lived with a house for 15 years, cosmetic can mean paint and carpet. It can also mean she's never looked at the roof or opened an electrical panel. Sellers describe condition based on what they're used to, not what a buyer notices walking in cold. You don't know why she's selling. Motivation drives whether a lead becomes a deal more than any other factor. A seller who needs to sell will work with you on price and terms. Timeline. Repairs credited instead of made, even a closing date. A seller who's just curious what she could get will waste 3 weeks of your time and then list with an agent the moment a number she likes shows up. And you don't know if $175,000 is her real number or her opening number. Some sellers lead with their bottom line because they want the process over with. Others lead high or padded because they're testing what you'll say before they commit to anything. None of that is a red flag yet. It's just unknown. And resolving it is actually what the next call is for. The mistake isn't having unknowns this early. The mistake is treating them as settled facts because they came wrapped in specific sounding numbers. If you skip straight to running numbers off of her claims, you're not analyzing a deal, you're analyzing her story. Plug in $255,000 value, $175,000 price, a repair guess based on cosmetic being true. The math looks great. You get excited, you tell your partner, maybe you start picturing what the flip looks like. Then you actually walk the property and find out the roof needs replacing and there's an old panel that's going to need an upgrade before any insurer will touch it. The math you were excited about was never real. It was her math, not yours, and you didn't notice the difference until you'd already spent time and energy on it. That's the trap. A lead can look like a deal for weeks before you find out it never was one. And it's not just wasted time, it's the deals you didn't chase instead, because you were busy running numbers on a house that was going to fall apart the moment you verified anything. The investors who lose the least money aren't the ones with the best spreadsheets. They're the ones who don't fall in love with the story before they've checked or verified it. So here's how you decide if a lead is worth pursuing before you've verified anything. 1, is there a plausible spread? You don't need exact numbers, just enough room between the ask and a rough sense of value if the deal survives her being wrong. $175,000 against a claimed $255,000 has that room. If she'd said it was worth $190,000 instead, there's no cushion left for repairs, closing costs, and her being even slightly optimistic. And the lead dies right there, before you've spent another minute on it. 2, is there a real person behind the timeline? Not is she motivated. You can't know that in 5 minutes on the phone. But is there a circumstance attached to selling now instead of 6 months from now? I want to see what I could get isn't that. Neither is we've been thinking about it, or I inherited this from my mother and I live 3 states away. So is a job relocation, a divorce, back taxes piling up. You're not looking for a sad story, you're looking for a reason the timeline is real instead of hypothetical. 3. Does anything shift when you ask a follow-up question? Ask her the same thing 2 different ways, 5 minutes apart. If the condition, the price, or the reason for selling changes slightly every time, that's not necessarily dishonesty, but it tells you she hasn't settled on a clear picture herself yet, and you need more information before you invest real time chasing it. Ask all 3. Plausible spread, a real reason, a consistent story. And the lead earns a follow-up call. Not an offer, not a contractor visit, not a number you write down and you get attached to. A follow-up call, which is exactly what the next episode in the series walks through. Fail even one and you don't need to run the numbers. You already had your answer, and you can move on to the next lead. With this specific lead, $175,000 asking, a claimed $255,000 value, cosmetic condition. Here's where it lands. The spread passes. 80 grand of stated room survives being wrong. I don't have a real reason for the sale yet, and I don't know if cosmetic is per word or contractors. So no offer yet. It gets a second call though. That call is where you stop asking what she thinks the house is worth and start asking what her numbers are based on. What is cosmetic and what does it actually cover? And why now? That's next. The specific questions to ask before you ever open a calculator. Right now, all you have is the story. The next step is turning it into information you can use. If you want the exact question to ask the seller before running a single number, that's the next video. And we're following the same deal start to finish. So subscribe if you want to see how it plays out.